Hi sixth graders, this is Mrs. Gall. Today I'm going to go through some equation problems that involve distributing a fraction. If at any point I'm moving too quickly, please make sure you pause the video and rewind as needed. Let's start with this example. 3/4 times the quantity of 12 plus 4a, close those parentheses, equals 21. Let's get started with distributing our 3/4. Anytime we see those parentheses, our goal is to get rid of those first. The problem or the issue with these problems is they just take a lot of extra work. So make sure you have a lot of space. We have some fraction work that we're going to have to do here. It looks like my first step is going to be multiplying 3/4 times 12. In order to do that nicely, I'm going to change that 12 into a fraction, which would be 12 over 1. Two ways I could multiply this. I could just multiply straight across and then simplify. 3 times 12 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. Remember that 36 over 4 is the same thing as 36 divided by 4, which is 9. So that's going to be the first term when I distribute my 3/4. Now I need to multiply 3/4 times 4a. In order to get the number in front of the a, I'm going to take 3/4 times 4, which is the same thing as 3/4 times 4 over 1. I could multiply straight across and get 12 over 4, or I could cross simplify here. I see that I have two 4s. I could simplify those to a 1 and a 1. Now when I multiply across, 3 times 1 is 3, 1 times 1 is 1, and I know 3 over 1 is the same thing as 3. You could have also gotten 12 over 4 and know that that simplifies to 3. So that means my second term here would be 3a. Now this is a two-step equation. On the side that has the variable, I want to start with the piece that's further away from the variable, which is the plus 9. Since it's a positive 9, in order to get rid of it and move it to the other side, I'm going to subtract 9. Making sure I do that from both sides of the equal sign. That cancels out the 9's on the left. I have 3a equals 21 minus 9, which is 12. 3a equals 12. Now that all my variables are together on the left and my constants are together on the right, this is my very last step. So I'm going to do the inverse of multiplying by 3, which is dividing by 3 to both sides. That allows me to get a by itself. A equals 12 divided by 3, which is 4. It's not uncommon to get answers that are not whole numbers on these types of problems. This one ended up being a whole number answer, but let's look at one that maybe doesn't end up being a whole number answer. In order to give me enough space, I'm just going to start on a fresh page. 2/3 of 6m plus 12 equals 3/4 of 8m plus 20. Pause the video if you need more time to write that down. You'll notice this one is a little bit more complex just because it has distributive property with fractions on both sides of the equal sign. But the process is going to be very similar to the last problem. We're going to have to multiply the fraction by the whole numbers inside the parentheses. 2/3 times 6m, I'm going to take that 2/3 times 6. I get 12 over 3, which simplifies to 4, and there was an m attached to that. I'm going to slide this down and put my fraction work up above and my final terms down here. I also need to take 2/3 of 12. That would be the same thing as 2/3 times 12 over 1. That gives me 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3. 24 over 3 simplifies to 8. That's the first half of my equation. Now let's look at the second half. 3/4 times 8m and 3/4 times 20. 3/4 times 8 would be the same thing as 3/4 times 8 over 1. I always like to model that cross simplifying. That's the strategy I prefer to use. You do not have to show that, but I noticed my 4 and my 8 could both be divided by 4 to give me 1 and 2. 3 times 2 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1, and 6 over 1 simplifies to 6. So my first term on that side is 6m. And now we need to take 3/4 times 20. I'm going to show cross simplifying again on this side. I notice 20 and 4 can both be divided by 4, giving us 1 and 5. Multiply straight across. 3 times 5 is 15. 1 times 1 is 1. And 15 over 1 simplifies to 15. From there, now I solve this as a multi-step equation. My preference is always to move the smallest variable first, which in this case is 4m. To move a positive 4m, I'm going to subtract it from both sides. That leaves us with 8 equals 2m plus 5. From here, all of my variables are together on the right, so I need to get rid of my constants on the right so that they're all together on the left. To get rid of a plus 5, I'm going to minus 5 from both sides. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a 15. I was wondering why my answer wasn't working out nicely. Instead of a plus 5, it was a plus 15, so I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. Hopefully you caught that. 8 minus 15 would give us a negative 7. From there, we have all of our m's together, all of our constants together. Our very last step is to get m by itself. Since this is 2 times m, the inverse of timesing by 2 is dividing by 2. And negative 7 divided by 2 does end up being a decimal or a fraction. It would be a negative 3.5, and you could write that as a decimal, negative 3.5, or a fraction, negative 3.5. It's very common on these types of problems to get a decimal or fraction answer, so don't second guess yourself if you do. However, like you saw in our first example, they sometimes can end up being whole number answers. I hope this helps. Check in with your teacher if you have any questions about this skill.